Welcome to the Co-Parenting Conversations podcast, brought to you by the Center for Divorce Education. With renowned psychologist Dr. Donald Gordon, we will delve into the complex world of co-parenting during and after divorce and separation. Join us as we explore some of the emotional, legal, and practical aspects of parental breakups, helping you navigate this transformative journey with wisdom and guidance. Whether you're currently going through a divorce, contemplating separation, or supporting a loved one in their journey, the Center for Divorce Education is here to empower you with knowledge and offer you a roadmap towards a brighter future. The information presented in this podcast is intended for educational purposes only. The presentation of this material is not intended to constitute mental health therapy or to diagnose mental health disorders. The presentation of this material is not intended to constitute legal advice. Participants are encouraged to discuss specific legal questions with a licensed attorney of their choice.
Welcome back to the Co-Parenting Conversations podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jamie. Thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about one of the most powerful tools parents can have to help children recover from the instability of separation or divorce, which is consistency.
When parents hear the word consistency, they often think about discipline or house rules. But consistency is much bigger than that. It's really about helping children feel emotionally safe again. After a separation, children experience enormous uncertainty. Their home life changes, their routines change, their sense of predictability changes. Suddenly, they may not know where they'll be sleeping next weekend, who's picking them up after school, whether their parents are angry with each other, or whether plans are going to change at the last minute again. For adults, those things may seem manageable, but for children, especially young children, predictability is closely connected to emotional security.
Exactly. And children are constantly asking themselves, even if they never say it out loud, am I safe? Can I trust what's happening around me? Are the adults in control? Is my world stable? And one of the clearest ways parents answer those questions is through routines and follow through. Minimizing unnecessary change and maintaining stable routines helps children adjust more successfully after separation or divorce. The more predictable a child's environment feels, the more emotionally secure they tend to become.
And importantly, consistency does not mean perfection. Parents don't need identical homes. They don't even need identical parenting styles. They don't need perfectly equal schedules. What children truly need is reliability. They need parents who show up when they say they will, communicate clearly, keep transitions calm, maintain routines, and create an environment where children don't constantly feel emotionally braced for chaos.
Right. And one thing we often see after separation is that parents become so focused on the legal, financial, and logistical stress that they underestimate how deeply children are affected by unpredictability. Adults may think, they'll adjust. Kids are resilient. They seem just fine. But children often internalize stress quietly. Sometimes it shows up as anxiety, irritability, clinginess, trouble sleeping, difficulty concentrating at school, emotional shutdown, or acting out behavior. And many times, those reactions are connected not only to the separation itself, but to the instability that's surrounding it.
That's such an important distinction. Children can actually adapt remarkably well to change when the adults around them create structure and emotional steadiness. But when life starts feeling chaotic, changing schedules, forgotten pickups, emotional conflict during exchanges, inconsistent rules, unpredictable routines, that's when children can begin to feel like the world around them is unreliable. And when children stop trusting the stability of their environment, their stress increases dramatically.
And one of the things emphasized throughout the Children in Between online program is that reducing stress on children requires parents to become more intentional about how their behavior affects the child emotionally. Children pay attention to patterns. They notice whether transitions are tense, whether parents communicate respectfully, whether routines are dependable, whether promises are kept, and whether adults stay emotionally regulated. Consistency becomes proof to children that the adults are still capable of protecting them emotionally.
And routines are incredibly powerful because they communicate safety without needing long emotional conversations. The simple things matter, like bedtime staying relatively consistent, school mornings are organized, homework happens at predictable times, knowing what's going to happen each weekend, knowing who's going to take them and pick them up from soccer practice, or simply knowing that a parent will actually be on time. Those routines reduce uncertainty, and reducing uncertainty reduces stress.
Right. And transitions between homes deserve a special attention because they're often one of the most emotionally loaded parts of co-parenting. Even in relatively cooperative situations, transitions can feel difficult for children. Children may feel like, sadness that one parent is leaving, guilt about missing the other parent, anxiety about conflict, or emotional pressure to quickly shift between two different environments.
Children often become extremely sensitive to the emotional tone during exchanges. Parents sometimes underestimate how much children absorb during those moments. If the exchange includes sarcasm, criticism, tension, passive-aggressive comments, arguing, silence, or visible frustration, children will immediately feel it. Even if the words seem mild, the emotional atmosphere does affect them.
And transitions need to be predictable and managed calmly, especially for younger children. When transitions become chaotic or emotionally tense, children can start dreading the exchange itself instead of simply adjusting to two homes. Young children especially rely on routines to regulate emotions.
And one mistake parents sometimes make is expecting children to emotionally switch gears instantly. A child may walk into the house quiet or withdrawn after an exchange, and a parent may immediately think, "What's wrong? Did something happen? Why aren't they excited to be here?" But many children simply need time to decompress. Transitions are emotional, and children may need quiet, familiarity, predictable routines, or just a little emotional space before reconnecting.
Exactly. And that's why calm rituals can help tremendously. Things like unpacking the same way each visit, having dinner at the same time, reading together before bed, or maintaining familiar routines after exchanges. These routines help children's nervous systems settle back down. And consistency during transitions tells children, you don't have to manage the adult's emotions. You can simply be a child here.
Another major part of consistency is follow through. Children build trust when parents consistently do what they say they're going to do. That sounds really obvious, but during separation, routines often become unstable because both parents are overwhelmed emotionally and logistically. Plans change, people run late, communication breaks down, promises get forgotten. While adults may see those things as understandable mistakes, children often experience them very differently.
Yeah, children may interpret inconsistency as I'm not important, I can't count on adults, or everything just feels uncertain. And that's especially true if disappointment happens repeatedly. For example, repeated late pickups, canceled visits, forgotten school events, inconsistent communication, or constantly changing the plans. Even when parents have good intentions, repeated unpredictability weakens a child's sense of trust.
And importantly, this does apply to teenagers too. Sometimes adults assume adolescents no longer need that structure because they act more independent, but adolescents also require emotional and scheduling consistency to maintain that trust and stability. Teenagers are watching closely. They're going to notice whether parents keep commitments, whether communication is respectful, are schedules reliable, and whether adults handle stress maturely.
And yeah, teens may not always express disappointment openly either. Sometimes they act detached instead. But underneath that independence, consistency still matters deeply. Inconsistent parenting can lead adolescents to emotionally disengage because they stop trusting reliability. And once that trust weakens, rebuilding it takes a lot of time.
Consistency becomes much easier when parents communicate directly and respectfully. One of the recurring themes throughout Children in Between and in the What About the Children workbook is that children should not become messengers between parents. When communication between adults breaks down, children often end up carrying emotional responsibility that they were never meant to carry.
And inconsistent communication creates stress quickly. For example, one parent says one thing, the other parent says something different. Schedules are unclear, expectations aren't communicated, or children are left trying to figure everything out themselves. Children should never feel responsible for managing the parenting relationship.
Predictable communication between homes helps children feel safer because it reduces confusion. That might mean using a shared calendar, confirming the schedule ahead of time, communicating directly instead of through your children, or keeping conversations calm and focused on the child's needs. Consistency between homes doesn't require parents to be best friends. It simply requires enough cooperation that children are not constantly navigating confusion and emotional tension.
Exactly. And if there's one idea we hope parents take away from today's episode, it's this: consistency builds trust. Children recover from instability when the parents around them become emotionally reliable, predictable, and calm.
The separation itself may not be fully within a child's control, but the emotional environment parents create afterward matters tremendously. Children feel safer when routines are predictable, exchanges are calm, communication is respectful, and parents follow through consistently.
And remember, consistency doesn't require perfection. It just requires intention. Small, dependable routines repeated over time can help children rebuild emotional security and trust in their world again.
Thanks for listening in today, and we'll see you again next time.